Hey, this is gonna be a response to Aaron's video. I've been doing a good deal of thinking on this topic. One, I definitely agree this notion of a producer or consumer or whatever. I mean, these are all just people that do live out their lives doing different things at different times. It's almost kind of derogatory in a way to think of like MSNBC. I see it sometimes, and they're talk about consumers this and consumers that. And I mean, the point of my being isn't to consume things. The point of my being is, to live for my own sake. So just kind of like think about that. Like another word would be taxpayer, for example. Uh, um, I mean, it's someone that's getting boned up the butt, but they try to put it out to be like, well, as long as they don't mention this part, but as long as you're being boned, um, getting a dick up your butt, and then they start, you should be getting your efficiency for the money that you pay. They don't mention that dick up the butt part, but they do. You know, hey, if you're no rape the girl, you should at least like buy your breakfast afterwards. That's like what they get at. Anyways, that's kind of off topic. Kind of the I'll talk about like some words as far as I know them. As I understand it, like the word capitalist is actually a Marxist notion, and I had a buddy that told me this, but like when I tried to use the word capitalist, he's like, "No, that's a." I'm like, who are you to say to define my terms as being a word Nazi? Um, Free market. I guess like I'll kind of even draw a division in that where it is people are definitely, like you said, 100% for the market demanding for a state. They're not free market though, so they're not. There's the demand for freedom is a good deal lesser, especially in this day and age. The idea of the marketplace is uh, evolving idea. You have, how far back does it go? I mean, do you say thousands of years? The first person that traded 10 chickens for a cow. I mean, like the or the first person that gave someone gold in exchange. I mean, like how far do you go in explaining how far back people like understand the market to be, because that's all the market is trade. But this idea of what a marketplace, as far as I understand it, state capitalism happens kind of out of accident. You have these medieval guilds that, it's almost like a protection group, but then they have mutual benefit that you buy into, and like the Masons would be one. You've got, the martial arts guilds. You've also have like Islam had its golden age in which it, came up with science. I'm reading on Wikipedia, um, various form, like some like inkling of capitalism, the scientific method, and then later on, the medieval Europe had, theologians and philosophers that, you know, got into this idea of uh, golden age of enlightenment and the process of discovering science all over again. And Adam Smith, Adam Smith. I mean, this is the first time this idea of like you have mercantilism. This is being refuted, and says, this is like the first time what you would call a capitalistic theory comes into place. But even he wasn't. I think he's given too much credit for what he did compared to other his contemporaries. There's John Petit Say, and you have Say's law, and you have a bunch of other economists around the 1700s, that were in agreement on these ideas that came into America. But I mean, even Adam Smith was pretty frivolous. He said something like, um, "You should have a government for like I'm probably getting some of this wrong, so correct me if I am wrong. He said something like, we should have a government for national defense, courts, and public works, and then I'm thinking, public works, really a government program for statues? Like, this is like kind of, I think what his envisionment was like to have statues that, the private sector doesn't make, but, George Washington needs to be put into a statue form. Anyways, it's, beyond me what these people think, and it's hard to be able to understand. If anyone has some, links I should read about Adam Smith, definitely link it. I'm not going to read The Wealth of Nations because that's probably about as long as Atlas Shrugged, and I don't have the desire for something that long. But I guess like here's some things is like, as Wes Bertrand points out in his book Complete Liberty, there's never been a complete market. So like most people's conceptualization of, you have like free market is 20% government interference, mixed is 50%, socialism is 70%, and communism is 90 or 100% government. And like most people have no fucking clue what the free market 0% looks like in the end. And I mean, even for me, it's a hard thing to imagine what it looks like, because that would mean like roads, completely roads where like a good deal of them be torn down. Some would be here, some would be here. You'd have in a free market, you'd have different ways of transportation. You won't have the car due to the railroads being regulated that necessitate the car. You have intellectual property, who and how would invent and what inventions would come out. Like, it's impossible, almost impossible to imagine. It's just like, but these people that bash the free market won't even like entertain the idea. That's like they blind themselves from that vision. It's like, no, I won't go there. That's anarchy. That's like, no. And they're, it's almost like they think of this idea of free market as an entity. Like, you have Adam Smith's invisible hand, and that's an actual invisible hand that's moving things around and saying, okay, supply, demand, put it here. And this is, people anthropomorphize things to get it, but it's not a situation where you could do that. It's, now, you've got people like Dale Everett with Anarchy in Your Head, does the opposite. He makes the state into an iron fist and anthropomorphizes it. I think that's hilarious, but I think you're onto something when you say the state's like Frankenstein, because like Melanie definitely, if he doesn't do it like consciously, it's definitely just something that he says is the state, and he treats the state as an entity or an object. And there's your definition, I think, of a Frankenstein fits better, just in that like there's old parts that are thousands of years old that are dug up from the graves and put together to make a monster that you've got departments that fit together, that don't fit together, that fall apart, but you've got people, but it's coercion, and that's the these people operation under this notion of their state or a country being an entity too, whereas you do have to have some person, like it's kind of an entity. It has it's not a total cohesive package, though, I guess what I want to get at. And I'll even say I disagree with you somewhat on the against me argument, and just to an extent I realize that the point of the matter isn't ponage, but like I think about this from a matter of, until you can talk about things academically or like they're, you know, until you talk about things with people that affects them personally, you're not going to be able to like break that wall. I think like that's such a strong thing that like I don't think the point's ownage. It's just a matter of, until it affects you emotionally, until you can relate to that person, that's when the lines are going to link. It's like, I don't like the against me argument, I like the against you argument, which would pretty much say, well, I would never do this, I would never force my will against you. And I think it's a better argument. It's kind of like, hey, you know, I'm okay, you're okay. And we can use freedom instead of pulling guns on each other.